It's been happening for a while, I think, the sell-off of Lloyds, and this was sort of the last 0.25%. But I suppose for Lloyds, it's the end of that period from the financial crisis 9 years ago when the government had to come in to save them and to save the financial system, and now they're back in private hands. So there's a certain amount of the Rubicon finally being crossed.
There's a bit of backslapping going on today among various people. Are we right to be slapping backs? I mean, the purpose of taking this business into partial state ownership in the first place was not to make money out of it. It was to save off the financial crisis.
Yeah, that's right. There's this nice thing that's being quoted that the government sort of got its money back. Well, it sort of did if you take out the fact that it also had to insure a lot of Lloyds loans, which is 2.5 billion. It was paid for that. But that wasn't why we invested in Lloyds. If we'd been investing just in the stock market over the same period, we'd have made billions and billions of profit. So I don't think, it's a sort of nice symbol, you got your money back, but that's not why it was done. The really big question is, we put all this money in to save the financial system so that the financial system could fulfill its really important purpose of underpinning the UK economy. And the question is that we need to ask ourselves is that what the financial system is now doing? I think that we're probably better, and Lloyds, one of the better in terms of what it is that's happening. But would you say that the finance industry is fully pursuing its purpose? No. The other thing that you might want to ask, I think, is the financial system and the banking system now absolutely safe so that it won't ever do what it did in 2008 again? And I think there are still some questions that need to be asked about that, of whether we're out of the woods in all of this.
You think we're still at risk?
I think, I remember we did a seminar at London Business School. We invited the leading academics from around the world, and the consensus would be this is not a safe system, that it should be considerably more safe because the banks have to keep our money safe. That's their primary purpose, and then they can help with lending out and so on. And it's not clear, as you look around the banks, not just of Britain but of the world, that all of them are in a safe place.
Well, Lloyds, if they were here, would turn around and say, well, hang on, our Tier 1 capital ratio is now 14%. That's exceptionally safe compared with pre-crisis.
Well, yes, and they'd say that it was half pre-crisis, but of course the way in which you calculate these things has changed. It's an extraordinarily complicated calculation, and there are many who would say that the complexity of that calculation allows it to be gamed.
What about the position of RBS? Now, clearly, Lloyds has done a pretty good job in getting itself fit for being back in the private sector. RBS still has some way to go. What did Lloyds do that RBS hasn't, or is that the wrong way of looking at it?
Well, I think it might be as well what was the initial position was quite a part of it. Lloyds, remember, was always focused mainly on being a retail bank, so it takes your deposits and it lends it out for businesses and mortgages. RBS had this huge investment bank that was associated with it as well. And clearly the balance sheet, what RBS owned and what it owed, was in a much worse state than Lloyds Bank. I think there'll be others who might say, look, RBS should have tried harder to get rid of parts of its business and raise money that way. That might be right, but I think probably the initial starting point of the balance sheet was the thing that has really determined why RBS has found it so difficult.